Hey everyone, it's Thomas here. So today, I know it's been a while since I uploaded a video, and today I'm going to talk about the Totem Kinplay active speaker. It's been a while because I've discovered Crave TV and I've been watching a lot of TV. Star Trek Discovery, and I'm about to start Game of Thrones. So I better get this review out before I start that TV show. So this is a review sample sent to me from Totem. This is a fully loaded active speaker. So what it means is that it has a built-in DAC, phono stage, preamp, amp, and it supports HD Bluetooth. So all you need is actually a cell phone to start listening to music. Now, even if you're not in the market for an active speaker, stick around still because I want to talk about Totem speakers a little bit, and they are unique in how they voice their speakers. It might be something that will interest you. So when I did a search for Totem Kinplay on YouTube, I noticed that no one has reviewed them yet. I find that's unfortunate because the Kinplay is a worthy alternative to the KEF LSX active speaker. I think as consumer, the more good choices we have, the better it is. And sadly, sometimes we end up choosing a product not because it's the best product, but because we don't know of other similar existing products. Now, recently I've been trying different active speakers because I'm curious. You know, as owner of the KEF LS50W, I was blown away by how good active speakers can be. So to satisfy my curiosity of how active speakers are at different price point, I even went out to buy the $400 Samsung TWJ5500 active speaker. It was, let's say it's a speaker for non-audiophiles. Pretty good bass, good for throwing parties in a small room, and I actually had fun with that Samsung speaker. Now, I already made a video on the KEF LSX, which costs about 1,500 Canadian, and today I'll talk about the slightly less expensive 1,250 Canadian dollars Kinplay active speaker. The Kinplay comes with one active unit and one passive unit. To power the passive unit, you just need to use the supply speaker cable to connect both speakers. Now, I like the fact that each cable has an adapter at its end and it slides easily into each speaker's binding post. The supply metal remote is fantastic. No need to cycle through inputs. It is solidly made and the buttons are really responsive. It's easily the favorite remote out of the 5 active speakers I have tried. Next, looking at the front, you'll have a 1-inch metal alloy dome tweeter and a 5-inch woofer. The woofer is composed of paper for its acoustic advantages, and it's treated with a polymer for durability. So talking about paper-based woofers, so one thing I noticed is that it doesn't have the bass weight, that power compared to, let's say, the other woofers I've heard before, namely Kevlar woofers, diamond woofers, even aluminum woofers. What they do have though is speed and dynamic. So if you're going to test speakers that use paper woofers and you might be using your regular tracks, you might be slightly disappointed. Because that's one thing I noticed when I got myself the Omega speakers, the Zoo Audio speakers, well, even the 936 Focal that uses flex woofers. Well, I consider it almost like paper. It has the same property. If you choose the right type of music with it, for example, drums like this. I bet you'll be very impressed with the speed and dynamic what these paper-based woofers can do. So I guess my point is that when you listen to speakers that uses paper cone, the way you judge based on them might need to be a little bit different. That's why I say bass is the most difficult part to get in a speaker. You want good definition, you want speed, you want it to go very low, you want to have punch and everything. Unless you go very, very, very high end like diamond woofers, it's hard to get everything. If you ever get a chance to listen to the speed of, let's say, my Omega speakers, man, you'll be blown away. But it doesn't have a lot of weight, a lot of power, a lot of punch. So that's why speakers like that, I usually say, yeah, you need a subwoofer with it. So the speakers are powered by a 120 watt Class D amp. You can connect to it by Bluetooth, aptX HD, which supports up to 24-bit/48K. Now, if you want higher bandwidth, use the optical input, and that one supports 192K. It has an analog RCA input, which allows you to use your own DAC, a 3.5mm mini jack, and a built-in phono stage. Now, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to test out the phono stage, so I don't know how good it is. Now, keep in mind, you can only use either the RCA or the phono input, but not both. Now, according to their website, these speakers are rated from 39 Hz all the way up to 22 kHz plus or minus 3 dB with proper positioning. Proper positioning, yeah, I guess that means you need to place it close to a wall to get that 39 Hz. Now, if you want more bass, it has a subwoofer output, so you can add a sub to your setup. The magnetic grills are well made, and overall the speaker looks traditional, but with a modern touch, and that's having curvy edges in the front. So, how do they sound? It's a very revealing and transparent speaker. In fact, it is one of the brightest speakers I currently have, and I have like 10 plus speakers at my home. I would say it even rivals my Focal 936 in terms of brightness. The Kindle's top end is really extended, airy, and I like how easy it is to hear all the details and nuances. Another added advantage I find with metal-based dome tweeter speaker is that instrument separation is usually very good. And the Kinplay is decent. The mids are tilted up. So if you like clarity and very clear vocals, these speakers are for you. If you're sensitive to bright speakers like me, then you have to listen with the grills and tone control set to -1 for the treble. So once again, I find them forward sounding. Forward side of neutral, and they lean more towards having that lively sound. Definitely not the type of relaxing speaker that put you to sleep. So regarding the bass on these Kinplay, as I mentioned before, paper-based cone woofers are different. Now, there is still power in these Kinplay when it comes to bass, especially when you put it close to a wall. But just like my other speakers, like my Focals, like my Zoo and my Omega, they're more better at speed and dynamic than power. So if you want the full experience, yeah, sure, add a subwoofer. But having said that, the way it is, I mean, in my room, it's still good enough to feel it. And after break-in, I would say the bass is pretty decent on these speakers. It does have a very good definition, just not foundation shaking type of bass. I find the speaker plays well at low and normal volume. In my room, 11 feet by 16 feet by 8 feet, it does feel it enough, but if I were to play at loud volume, then a sub would definitely help, but not necessarily depending on the kind of music you play and your taste. Now, what I find really cool now is that Totem highlights the fact that they don't use DSP in the active speaker. Now, this reminds me of the vinyl versus digital debate. You know, think of DSP as digital. When CD first came out, you know, a lot of people went in that direction in favor of vinyl. But you have this group of people who stick to vinyl and refuse to go digital because for them, the sound is the most important. So when Totem highlight to me that the fact that they don't use DSP with the Kinplay, it reminds me of that group of people who stuck to vinyl because it sounded better. And it was a conscious choice not to use DSP when they designed these Kinplay. So let's talk about the Totem sound now, and why you should consider this speaker if you're considering the LSX. A while ago, I put up this sneak peek video on my YouTube community page. So what I did was that I had a few audiophile friends over to audition these 5 speakers. The Wafdale D225, the KEF LS50, the Cabas 40, the Revell M106, and the Totem Sky. I purposely don't tell them how much each speaker costs. I just want to see their reaction and which one they prefer. So I'll play a few songs, swap speaker, play a few songs, swap speaker. Now, every time without fail, once I put the Totem Sky on, my friends will go, whoa, something is different. So what is different. And this is true for all the Totem speakers I've tried, okay? So from my email of Totem, this is what they told me, and I quote. I better read it. So Vince, who is the owner, education background includes a degree in anatomy, and his understanding of the physiological and anatomical makeup led him to believe that people are extremely sensitive to phase, or the time relationship between drivers and how we perceive a sound reproduction from a speaker that mimics reality. Totem focuses strongly on this aspect of design, producing a correct linear phase response that then truly elicits the holographic, lifelike sound we demand from a speaker. Now, so that's one of the reasons why they don't use DSP. And what you need to really take away from this, what I just read there, okay, is that Totem speakers are holographic. And I noticed that already when I make my Totem element review. You know, I've owned quite a few Totem speakers. The Totem Forest, the Totem Signature One, well, anyway, a few Totems. So people whom I met who like the Totem sound tends to keep buying Totem speakers. In fact, when it comes to creating that holographic sound stage, meaning that if you close your eyes, you imagine the singer in the middle and the instruments all around the singer, and you can imagine yourself walking around the singer easily. So I noticed that my Totem Sky bookshelf speaker is actually even better than my Focal 1027S. Especially with a tube preamp setup. I remember this because I was kind of pissed because one day I was doing an A/B test between my speakers, and when I swapped from the 1027 Focal to the Totem Sky, I was like, darn, these Totem Sky are actually more holographic than my 1027. It's pissing off because the 1027 was more than double the price of the Totem Sky. Now, I'm not saying the Sky is better than the Focal 1027, so let's make that clear, but in terms of creating that holographic presentation, it is definitely better. So this way of voicing speaker is the reason why, if you never heard Totem speakers before, check them out. And if you're somebody who actually owns Totem speaker and keep wondering, why do I really like these Totem speakers, it's because it's very holographic. Now, the Totem Kinplay is not as holographic as the Totem Sky, okay? I mean, the Totem Sky is $2,000, so it is a very expensive speaker. Still, it uses the same design approach, and if you place them well, you will get that 3D soundstage and a decent sized soundstage. Now, here's where it differs from the KEF LSX. The holographic soundstage of the Kinplay feels more natural compared to the KEF LSX, which I find enhanced by DSP. Now, in terms of smoothness, the Kinplay is good relative to the entry amps I'm trying right now, namely the PS Audio Sprout 100, the IOTA VX, the Cambridge, the Atto. If you're comparing to those integrated amps, and yeah, the Kinplay is smooth. So one day I might actually make a video comparing all the active speakers I've tried, or at least put up a sound demo showing you the 5 speakers, the 5 active speakers I have. So a few things to note. First, I prefer the speaker away from the wall, so I get a better 3D soundstage, but you will lose bass. If you want more bass, put it close to a wall. Next, you need to break in these speakers. When I first got them, originally, I decided I actually was not going to review them because the brightness and the digital glare bothered me. There was no bass, and at loud volume, there was compression. So what I did, I put it upstairs and just let it run. My friend who owns the Cantor speaker, I'll call him Mr. Cantor from now, also dropped by, and he listened to these speakers, and after 2 songs, he was like, nah, we're done. A few weeks later, he dropped by again, and the same thing. Yeah, a few songs, nah, we're done. And a few more weeks passed, and I remember one morning when I was just about to leave home, and I passed by these speakers, and I kept them running, and I had to stop. I had to stop because it caught my attention, and at that moment I felt relief because it sounded good. That digital glare and edginess that bothered me was mostly gone, and it sounded pleasant to my ears. So later on, my same Mr. Kanta dropped by, and this time he spent the part of the afternoon listening to it with me. As I mentioned, I do listen to them with grills on and -1 treble because I'm sensitive to bright speakers. If you like, very revealing and very bright speakers, well, then you can just listen to it set to neutral and without the grills. So with the grills, I do gain smoothness, but it's less airy. So you have to experiment with different setup. Now, one important thing you also have to consider is the warranty. The Kinplay comes with a 2-year guarantee on the amp and 5-year on the driver. Now, I say this because my last active speaker ended up at the store for a few months to fix, and it only had a 1-year warranty. Now, to finish off the video, let me tell you the story of my 2 audiophile friends and my non-audiophile nephew, who all 3 of them had a chance to compare this Kinplay side by side against the KEF LSX. All 3 of them prefer the Kinplay over the LSX because they said the Kinplay has a fuller sound, more transparent, and the presentation is more traditional. Now, I like the Kinplay and I also like the KEF LSX because each have its own strength. So I don't really have a preference for one over the other. Now, if I really have to choose, you know what? I guess I'll answer that in a future comparison video. So if you're looking for an active speaker in this price range, make sure to put this on your list. When you go audition these speakers, keep in mind that if you find them too bright or if there is compression at loud volume with thin bass, ask them how many hours they have used them for. Now, if you take them home, run them for at least 40 hours before evaluating them. Go to a store that has both the LSX and the Kinplay and do an A/B test. Overall, this is a product worth your time, and if you're not looking for active speakers, do still go check out some Totem speakers because its unique sound signature might be what you're looking for. I guess that's about it then. Alright guys, till next time.